Hi and welcome to Lead Well, the podcast for you if you want to get better at leading yourself and leading others. This is Christine Schickinger, your host, looking into how you can achieve peak performance while keeping a peaceful mind. Have you ever wondered why your body reacts the way it reacts when you are surprised or when you are spooked? I was looking into that when I had my burnout, as I already shared with you. So I got interested in what happens really when I feel stressed, what happens with my body, and why is it so damaging for our body. And the one thing I came across, and I still think it's the most important thing to understand, is the autonomic nervous system. I guess you might have heard about this system already. Probably when someone talked about the fight or flight response, because that is part of this nervous system. So the autonomic nervous system is nothing else than a system of nerves in our body that responds to danger or lets us understand that we are safe, we are in a good position, and we can rest. Now, when we are in danger, of course, we want to get away. We want to make sure that we get out of that danger zone. So we can either run away or we can defend ourselves. That's why this system is called fight or flight system or fight or flight response, because that's actually what's happening. Our bodies get ready to run away or to defend ourselves. Maybe at some stage you're so frightened and you can neither run away nor fight. In that case, you get into a freeze state. So freeze is a third response that can happen. But let's keep it really simple here, because I told you I want to keep things really, really simple. So when we look at this autonomic nervous system, it has more or less two different parts. The first part is called the sympathetic nervous system, or SNS. That is the one that kicks in when you feel you are in danger. So it could be in early times that a tiger was coming around the corner, and of course you needed to run. Nowadays, it's often only an email coming into our inbox, and we have the exact same response. The body still responds in the same way. The body makes sure that we get ready to run away. What it does is it pumps more blood into certain parts that are helpful for running, and that are our muscles. Of course, we need muscles to run away and to defend ourselves. It also puts more emphasis on our heart. So our heart is beating stronger and faster and is pumping more blood into our muscles, and also our lungs get more active. So the bronchs are widened so that we can take in more oxygen, so that our muscles again get more energy to run away. In the brain, we get really focused. So we want to make sure that we are really focusing on the threat. We don't lose focus on what's dangerous to us. What's reduced there in our brain is really the opportunity to have a bigger picture. Because I don't know about you, but when I'm feeling stressed, when I'm feeling in a panic, there is probably only one thought running through my head. And that's, oh my God, let me get out of here. Our thinking really is reduced. And by the way, this goes as far as to a part of our brain is actually shrinking. And it's the part that is the most important part for our cognitive thinking. So this is the sympathetic nerve. And this kicks in whenever you feel you are in danger. Now, what can this be? This can be anything that we're seeing, we're hearing, maybe even smelling. So if you smell fire, that's the same process. Anything that's coming into our body, into our system through our senses. But then it can also be something that we're thinking about. Our thoughts can also trigger this response. At the end of the day, the sympathetic nervous system, that's called a flight or fright response, but also is a stress response, because again, stressful situation is a situation where we think we are in danger, and so this sympathetic nervous system kicks in. Now, there is another part of the autonomic nervous system, and that's the parasympathetic nervous system. The parasympathetic nervous system, when that one is active, our body makes sure that we can digest our food, that our metabolism is working well. Our body can function when the parasympathetic nervous system is active. It is called the rest and digest state, but I would call it the thrive state, because we need to be in that state to actually survive. Think about it. If you would always be in a state where your body is ready to run away or defend itself, in a state where the muscles are activated and all the energy is focused toward heart, lungs, and muscles, you can imagine that your digestive system, for example, is not functioning that well. And this, by the way, is why so many people, when they have a constant stress situation, are getting stomach aches or are getting any types of illnesses related to the gut. Now, why do we have both? And what is crucial here? Of course, the sympathetic nervous system, that's absolutely life-saving, because it enabled us to run away. It enabled us to stay alive. And our ancestors, by the way, were those who were running away the fastest and those who were responding the fastest, because otherwise they wouldn't be around and we wouldn't be around. So we are the successors of our ancestors that were the most easily stressed, probably. Now, at that time when we had the famous tigers walking around the woods, our ancestors were probably sitting around for the most of the day, or they were walking around, they were picking food, they were collecting fruits and vegetables. But the situations where their sympathetic nervous system would be activated were really rare. So our bodies are made so that we are primarily in a state where our parasympathetic nervous system is active, and only a few times a day, maybe 1, 2, 3 times a day, our sympathetic nervous system kicks in, takes us out of danger, and then is replaced by the parasympathetic nervous again. Nowadays, though, we have so many threats around us, so many triggers that trigger stress response in us, that trigger the sympathetic nervous system, that we're almost always in this state of fight or flight. And when you think about it that way, this is life-threatening, because what happens if the sympathetic nervous system is always active is that our body never gets a chance to focus on digestion, focus on self-healing. This, of course, is not helpful, and this is probably the reason why we're seeing so many people with digestive issues, stomach issues, blood pressure issues. Because if you look around, most of us are constantly in a high alert sympathetic state. One thing I haven't mentioned yet, sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems are antagonists. They cannot be active at the same time. It's either or. One kicks in or the other. This is where it gets interesting, but also easy, because there is one thing that you can do to reduce your stress response. There is one thing you can do to make sure that the impact of the stress that you have gets reduced. And that is activate your parasympathetic nervous system as often as possible. So what can you do to get there? Of course, you will tell me, okay, Christine, I'm going to my yoga class, and that's probably twice a week. And I'd be there for 20 minutes or half an hour. And then I'm doing my yoga practices every day. And yes, that's perfect. But if you compare that 24 hours to maybe 15 minutes of yoga practice a day, still the ratio is not what we would need to see, because our bodies have been designed for the opposite. Our bodies have been designed for a state where we are in a relaxed state, in a thriving state for about, let's say, 23 hours a day, and then maybe an hour of responding to danger. Now, the one thing that you can do, and this is why I include all these little exercises, these little, what we call the PQ reps, to strengthen your mental muscle, to help your mind understand how to quickly switch between the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nerve response. So these are small mindfulness exercises. And yes, if you're doing yoga or meditation once a day, that's great. But what's even more helpful is to do those little exercises throughout the day. And they don't have to be that long. They can be like half a minute, 2 minutes. That already helps your brain to understand how to quickly alternate between the two states and to get more used to the parasympathetic state. Because our brain, our body, loves this state of relaxation. And as I said, it's not 100% relaxation. It doesn't mean that you're sitting around doing nothing. It just means that you can look at the world not through wide open eyes, waiting for the next catastrophe to happen, but through relaxed eyes, with a more sensible approach and a relaxed approach and a more mindful approach. You can take decisions in a much more sensible way when you're in that state. You can think about your next project in a much broader aspect when you are in this parasympathetic state. This is why for today I also offer you a little exercise, and this now is focusing on your sense of hearing. So far we focused on our sense of seeing, of the vision. Now today, if you want to join me, and you can just sit there, you can keep your eyes open or close them, just as you like. And then focus on a sound. Focus on the sound that is farthest away from you and that you can just hear. So what is that sound? Focus on that sound. And then bring your focus back to you and focus on a sound that's closest to you. Maybe you're hearing a sound within your head. I personally have a ringing sound in my ears. And no, it's not a tinnitus. It's just my blood, probably. So what is the sound that's closest to you that you just can hear? And then go back to the sound that's farthest away. And bring your attention back to the one that's closest. Maybe you can hear your breath. And you might already have felt that this little exercise relaxes you in a very quick way. And so I invite you for the next week to do two things. First, observe yourself, maybe every hour, maybe once every 2 hours. Just pay attention to the state that you're currently in. Are you in a state where your sympathetic nervous system is active, or are you in a state where your parasympathetic system is active? And if you are in a stressed state, if you are in a state where you would rather run or defend yourself, then do this little exercise, focusing on your hearing, focusing on the sounds, and observe what's happening. And if all goes well, then you have already activated your parasympathetic nervous system with this little exercise, with this little PQ rep. So thank you very much for listening in today. I hope this was helpful, and next time I will talk more about how to activate your parasympathetic nervous system and why this is so important. Have a wonderful week, and may you always lead well, yourself and others. This was Lead Well. Now, what is the one thing that you're taking away from this episode? Please share in the comments below and do share the podcast with your friends and family, but only if you like it.